And boom, are getting crazy today. We're doing two podcasts in one day. It's episode 17. Jimmy's drinking and drinking and
We're
drinking.
doing two.
So we were talking about something in the last episode, urban myths surrounding films or the productions of films. And Jimmy brought up a good one while we were doing a little pre-production on this. Why don't you start up with the Indiana Jones escapade?
Yeah, one of the funniest, one of the most memorable scenes from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Guys twirling the swords all over the place.
Going ballistic with them.
Well, Spielberg had this thing written as a 3.5 page script. This long-winded how Harrison Ford's going to fight the guy with two swords, and apparently the day of the shooting, Harrison Ford had diarrhea, had to take a fucking shit. So he goes, I don't got time for this 3.5 page script. Can we cut this thing down a little bit? Spielberg said, no problem. He goes, why don't you just shoot the guy in the fucking chest?
Yeah.
And that scene's great. That's where it came from. It was supposed to be a lot longer and a real fight.
Wait, is Raiders of the Lost Ark when he gets chased by that rolling rock?
Yes.
I thought that was Temple of Doom.
No.
Or does that happen in two of the films? They just keep recycling the same bit.
That's more of a possibility.
Well, I see this picture right here of him swapping out that
monkey,
jewel,
the gold monkey, the gold monkey statue.
and that's when the rock comes down, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
Leave a comment below, folks. We're getting interested in this now.
Well, that's good for urban myths. We're talking urban myths, right? That's a good Mandela effect. Is really so you and me both believe that happened in Temple of Doom, but it probably happened. I believe it is on the cover art though of the shot. So the fact that we're seeing this and I don't see the rock, I don't believe what's behind Indiana Jones there was the rock. So I believe it is Temple of Doom. You're right, but
Yeah.
great fucking movies. I love those a lot.
I think the Temple of Doom is my favorite one, but I would have to watch all in sequence with each other to really give you a nice judge.
That's a little bit of the idea of the urban myth theory, or I guess that's details behind a shot in a movie that's a well famous shot, right? But
Yeah.
You got one, or what are you thinking? I mean,
Well, I know there's a lot that's weird stuff that surrounds the Wizard of Oz. There was one myth going around where first of all, we know that Judy Garland was absolutely tormented back in Hollywood back in the 50s. They would give him these type of pills that were like they were pretty much Adderall, speed essentially, and they would make these kids work super super hard because they could only get them for 8 hours, I think, or else they were breaking laws. But I'm pretty sure that I heard that they were making Judy Garland work even harder than that. But besides that fact, we know Hollywood's a lot of scum. But so they were forcing these munchkins to fucking work real fucking long hours and very little pay. And I guess there's a myth that one of them hung himself, and you can see him dangling from a tree. So that people said that happened, but the only way you can really see it is older issues of the movie, because then they said they digitally took it out. So I don't know. Do you have any facts on that?
Yeah, so I actually have gone down that rabbit hole big time. We used to do the thing where you would try to time the Wizard of Oz to Pink Floyd, The Wall, and that.
Not The Wall, Dark Side of the Moon.
Dark Side of the Moon. So we went to the Yellow Brick Road scene that you're talking about, where it's dark in the background, and there definitely is an image of what looks like a hanging man. I mean, 100% that's what it looks like. But what it really was is, for some of the scenes, they had rented an exotic bird that was on loan from the Los Angeles Zoo, where they're filming near there. And he was perched in his zone where they had him just hanging out waiting for his scene. The director didn't plan on it being into the version, but they have not removed it. You can get it, and that's where it became way more obvious over the years. It had grown so much lore that it was this hanging munchkin that had hung himself. But finally on the Blu-ray, on the Blu-ray edition in almost in HD, you can tell what it is a lot better zoomed in, and you can see it's a bird.
It's a dead bird. They didn't feed the pet, or what was the deal with
No, it's
that?
alive. It's
Oh,
alive. It's not hanging. It's sitting on the. It's chilling on one of the trees,
oh, I
basically.
see. Okay, yeah. And then you
But
can get
this,
really conspiracy theory on it and say, well, it was a hanging midget, but then they came up with that story and then they put that in. I'm not gonna go down that route. I'll believe you on the
no,
bird.
I
So,
don't believe the conspiracy part of it. The funny part of it is the movie was out for a long time before anybody ever saw it. It took the quality of VHS, but unfortunately the graininess to kind of be this combo factor to create this urban legend because
right.
you couldn't really see it that well. It just was like have you seen it?
I don't think every version I've ever seen it was removed.
I went back and watched this thing 4,000 times. I mean, that's how much it looks like a hanging guy. My brain was mystified on it. I was, it really, really does. I didn't think Munchkin. It looks like a hanging man, but
Yeah.
that's on the grainy VHS older version. So the newer
Well, well,
ones,
well, you foiled the urban myth, but like I said, I heard it was a Munchkin that was super depressed, and then the fact that they were making him work these long hours and they were barely paying these Munchkins anything. I know that they didn't pay the Munchkins and they were pissed because that's a truth.
correct. Yeah,
So
and that's what all these kind of are. It's a lot of truth mixed in, or for the most part, that's where a lot of these urban legends come from. It's a little bit of truth. It's the telephone game. By the time it gets to the guy at the end of the table, the
yeah,
thing's turned into, it wasn't the bird. It was
yeah.
a hanging midget or a
Like
hanging munchkin.
that cardboard cutout of Ted Danson all of a sudden morphed into a ghost.
Well, you bring up where this went. Last episode, we're talking about three men and a baby ghost, and the how I used to have nightmares over this thing.
Yeah.
It came out in 1990. You got uh, as you're walking through the character Ted Danson's character's house. There's they pan by the hallway, and you can see this silhouette uh, in the doorway, and there it was a myth that the boy had committed suicide with a shotgun. Uh, well, the house was vacant before the movie shot, but it was actually a urban legend, and we learned later on, kind of like the Wizard of Oz thing. Sometimes these things go on for 20 years before we know the truth.
Well,
It was a
the thing
card.
with that is that I was going to mention that with the old film, like A Wizard of Oz, that was just on film. So even if you did somehow watch it in your house, it was digitally made to fit the. Remember, old TVs were squares. Kids that listen to this don't even realize this shit. But when you watch like old TV shows, that's why there's black blinds on the side, is because the format that they were shot in wouldn't even fill your 1080 screen. But let me take a little. Let's look at this ghost here because it blatantly looks like Ted.
It's Ted Danson with a top hat on, is what it is. It was for a promo, actually not for Cheers, for this movie.
Here
I
it is.
misspoke in the previous. God, that used to creep me out so much. Yeah,
Dude.
they
Hey,
have
Jimmy,
digitalized
I'm the
that so hard.
leprechaun. I'm the leprechaun.
Yeah, and clearly it looks just like Ted, but he's got a
It
top
could look
hat
like a
on
kid, though. I could see how you could think it's a kid,
because it's
but it doesn't
short
look like a
back.
dead
Yeah.
kid.
Well, no, but that scene happens very quick. It's very fast.
Right. And
And
until that was the point I was getting with, until the evolution of good equipment, you couldn't really, the only time you're going to watch the movie is in a theater. You're not going to be able to stop it, or you're watching it on your TV. I'm talking about in the 70s and the 80s and stuff. Then when VHS was introduced, you could now pause it and find that particular moment where that booby pops out, or the ghost, whatever tickled your fancy. But
it
I
was
think I
actually
found the
that. So
thumbnail here.
this is actually a soundstage in Toronto, not even shot in someone's rented house or something like the myth, like the urban legend stated.
Yeah. And that actually brings me to a good point, because I wanted to talk about this when we were talking about Walt Disney, I think a couple episodes ago. But there's a theory going around that the whole reason that they made the movie Frozen is because they wanted people to stop whenever, like, if you typed in Frozen, the first thing that would come up was Walt Disney's frozen body or frozen head. So they made the movie specifically to have that be removed from the top Googled thing.
Wow,
Now that's
wow.
weird. You
Now
think that's true?
there's a There's a rabbit hole, but yeah, I mean, if anyone's got the money means, and they've laughed their way to the bank with that move, if that's the truth, because Frozen is really cashed in.
Yeah.
You familiar with the Back to the Future 2, the hoverboards urban legend?
What's the legend that they exist?
Yeah, well, so like that's where it started. It was a lot of publicity for the movie. Zemeckis and Michael J. Fox were doing an interview. They said the hoverboards are real, and we wanted to go to actually production with them and sell them, but we got a lot of backlash from parents saying that kids would get hurt.
Oh,
So
they'd snap their necks on those things.
we're not selling them, but they're definitely real. A lot later, the movie was in '89. A lot later in its existence, about a decade later, Zemeckis finally admitted, no, it was all done with visual effects.
Yeah,
But
I think there was a myth about the shoes too, and they made those shoes as a Nike special edition. The moon.
yeah, my
boot.
buddy's got a set of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can you
they're
fly
expensive.
with them?
No, but they're like 10 grand. The real ones are like 10 G's, and they auto lace.
For some reason, I feel like there was some kind of myth about the third Back to the Future. Maybe I'm just making it up.
Well, no, there was truth about the first. I know a lot about Back to the Futures. I, in fact, love the production of the movies. But the script was written for all three to take place in Hill Valley, and the set burnt down. It was the biggest set ever built at that time at Warner Brothers, which is saying something. And it was a massive. It was the whole city they made. The set burnt down after the filming of one, in between going in and getting ready to film two, which had a completely different script. But once it burnt down, they had to jump on. They had to rewrite the script, reset a destination. All of a sudden, that's when it became the future, so they could rebuild it that way. And that's why they went back in time. They on the third one, they didn't want to rebuild the set again. It had cost too much. It wasn't cost effective to build it again when they planned on using it for 3 movies.
Well, I'm going to segue into this other movie perfectly. Maybe you can type this up. Look up The Exorcist urban myths. But I know some things have happened. So when that movie debuted, when it premiered, the fucking building was like hit by lightning, or lightning hit right close to the where they were showing it. But you might have to pull up some of these other facts as I discuss it a little more. I know people died during the making of it. And what I was saying in the previous episode is maybe these people's fucking collective consciousness, because they knew they were making such a weird, dark film, that they conjured up this bad event. I don't know. It's pretty strange that you make a movie about the devil and then all these weird, like I think it was the guy that played the priest. He died, and then I think there was a couple other deaths, unfortunate deaths that occurred. Do you see anything on it?
There's a whole page dedicated to.
Oh yeah,
the stuff.
It's the bigger one. Yeah, it's one of the bigger ones. But again, I'm starting to think maybe now they were all in such a bad state of mind, because I know there was some like depression issues that happened, and that we were talking about this before. When you're playing a role, people don't realize it, man. You can't just all of a sudden flip the switch. I'm sure some actors can, and those actors are probably a lot healthier in the mind. But if you're playing a role of a depressed person, someone's getting abused, someone that's fucking possessed, you got to get into this mindset every day. That just can't be good for your mind, your body. Everything's connected to the mind. So if you're putting yourself into a weird state of mind every single day, or a sick state of mind, you're playing someone that has depression in a movie, or someone that's going through some mishap and turmoil and crying every day. I did a part for my buddy's film. It was literally 5 minutes. And I had to get all like emotional and felt dark and shit. I felt ill after every time we filmed this thing.
Well, a lot of what it says here, the urban legend says anyone involved with the production of Exorcist was cursed for life. This is the actual Exorcist curse that many people often speak of. There were 2 characters in the movie: the mother of Father Karras, played by Vasiliki Melrose, and Brooke, the director, played by Jack McGowan, who died during the film's course. Those 2 people actually died even before the film was released.
Wow.
So during production of it, they passed away, and that's what led to it. And I was thinking that maybe this was a lot like Back to the Future 2, where it was self-created urban legend to drive intrigue for the movie, but it doesn't sound like it was at all.
That's why this movie reigns so supreme when it comes to horror films because I don't know. I've watched a bunch of movies about exorcism. This shit kind of creeps me out. I don't know if it's because we come from the Catholic Christian background where it's just so ingrained that this archetype of this demon or these things are real. Again, I'm not saying they're real or fake, but uh, the thought of like the devil and demons and things like that shit could fuck with your mind. I always thought it was strange because there are. Have you ever seen The Exorcism of Emily Rose?
Yes, I like it a lot, and that's based on a true story.
Yeah, that's some weird shit. And then there's this other movie called Dark Rites, or The Rite. Have you ever seen that with Anthony Hopkins?
No, I don't believe.
So what it shows you is there's actually you can go and I think it's in the Vatican or something, but you can go like if you're a head priest, you get selected to go to this different level of training where these are the priests that actually would deal with exorcisms and stuff, and you learn about these strange strange circumstances. They might be mental problems these people have. They may be possessed. They may be, I have no idea, but it's quite strange that this shit does exist. Again, it's probably a mental it's probably some kind of chemical reaction that they're lacking or they're having some issues in that department, but again, I don't know. These priests chalk it up to satanic shit.
There's a lot of lore. We talked a little bit about ancient aliens and that.
Here we go,
nobody
folks.
knows. Nobody knows, baby. There's just a lot of. I do believe that the higher churches know more about a lot of things, including afterlife or exorcisms or death, than lead on. And I don't know. It's all intriguing. But the Exorcist was small snippets of it were taken from a true story from Georgetown University in 1949. 14-year-old boy, and he had used a Ouija board to summon his aunt, to talk to his dead aunt, and they say that he became possessed by demonic forces during this time, and that's what the novel The Exorcism in 1949 was based on, and that's became the source for the movie.
Yeah, that's fucked up, man. My aunt always told me not to play with that Ouija
I know,
board.
I they are creepy, dude. I mean, you sit there literally looking at everybody being like, okay, who the fuck's moving it? I got a makeout session from a Ouija board.
On a happier note,
I go, do you want to kiss? And this thing slides up to yes.
Says, will you play with me? Yes.
Do you like blowjobs? Giving them, not receiving them.
And then you go into the closet for the 7 minutes in heaven and you go, wow, this girl's really blowing me. And her face is next to yours. You go, who's blowing me?
Be a great little fucking fat earth.
Yeah, we should do a bunch around Halloween time.
What are you doing? What the fuck?
I'm trying to figure out. There was something about like a lightning storm, or there was this massive storm when the movie premiered, and I could have sworn lightning struck. But again, this might be some shit that you just read. I always read about movie facts, and it's hard to keep tracks of all them movie facts, folks. Staying on the horror tip, Blair Witch Project. My sister went and saw this movie, and what a fucking genius marketing tactic, because for the first 2 weeks, people really thought this movie was real. And when I watched it, I thought it was real. I think that I'm glad that happened, though, because that was part of the novel fun of it. If you watch it now, it might be categorized as worst to the best, but when you watched it and my sister came home, she was almost in tears. She thought this was some of the scariest shit she's ever seen. This was before people knew it wasn't real. It's so subtle, and it's such a good move. Did you see it in that little pocket of time?
That was I don't know about Sundance, but that was a movie that came out of the festivals.
Well, they threw it right out of Sundance, bro. That's not.
Well, it was shot for a college project, I believe.
Yeah.
And the directors, but yeah, well done. One of my cliches ahead of its time. But I definitely, when I first saw it, there was that intrigue: is this real or fake? And
if you saw it in that window, it was such a more powerful movie.
1999. Yeah, it was good. It was done on a $60,000 budget.
Yeah, I was an eighth grader. I remember I went and saw this thing, and then I instantly had to go camping the next weekend. It's pretty intense.
Yeah, the film's director again. So again, a lot of these urban legends are derived from the people involved with the movie to create buzz. But
Right.
the film's director played up the idea that the movie was actual documentary found footage. But no, he had a $60,000 budget. It wasn't a class project.
Even
Uh,
that budget, Duke. I want to make a movie with 20 grand. I don't know if we can do it. What the fuck did they spend 60K on? Probably the advertising. But this is
Location,
the
yeah,
location.
like
They're in a woods with
dis-
a camcorder, bro. There's three people.
distribution.
Yeah, I don't. That would it would be it wouldn't be considered in the making of the movie though. That's a different. Maybe that's included. But that they used the internet. That was right when the internet was getting big. And I remember the Blair Witch website. You'd go to it and it was everything was saying it was real. I don't even know how long it took people to figure out that it wasn't real because you don't really see anything. That's the beauty of the movie. Guys beaten off in the corner at the end, and that's that.
Well, sticking on horror movies, what about The Shining? You know anything about this shit?
Oh, this is the king dong of all conspiracies because there's a full documentary written on this thing. Go ahead.
No, 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 no. I was saying my dong is hanging.
Oh yeah, yeah.
King
This is
King Dong.
well. The bottom line is when you look at any movie that Stanley Kubrick makes, like he makes the story, but then there's always this underlying reason he's making the movie. So it's like he used the Shining novel as his own vehicle to tell us something about society. This is what people think about Stanley Kubrick, which I agree with. He was a genius. So what is The Shining? Some people say it's about, Indian like all the Indians being killed. There's a lot of different things that show Indian heritage in the movie. But the real big one is that he faked the moon landing, and this was just like a big slap you in the face to the government, and he hid a bunch of weird stuff in the film, and some of it's indisputable. There's a movie called Room 237, which
Yep.
237 miles or 237 thousand miles,
Thousand.
or yeah,
Yeah.
1,000 miles is the distance from the Earth to the moon. So that's weird. And he changed in the book the hotel room's a different number. He changed it to 237, and then there's just all kinds of stuff. Danny's playing in this weird like pattern in the floor, and he's rolling a ball. He's got a spaceship on his shirt. Everything that's in a movie is deliberately picked from the director or the department that he's working with. So that's the whole thing is people don't realize every little piece of every nook and cranny in the movie, the candle, the fucking picture, the paper, the pencil, the sock, everything is picked out to put there. And why is some of the stuff that's in there? I don't know, but I highly recommend Room 237.
Yeah, I want to check that out. More homework, guys. What the fuck? Going back to school. But no, the moon's 237,000 miles away. You got Danny, the young boy. He wears an Apollo 11 sweater in the
Right?
movie. You got the carpet in the hotel.
Yeah.
Is it a hotel?
Yeah, it
Is
looks like it's the lift off.
yeah, it looks like a landing pad or rocket launching pad, they're saying.
Yeah.
And but the Apollo 11, Danny's wearing that little shirt says in some uh they just say that there's a lot of cryptic shit in The Shining that lead on about the moon landing itself, but the front projection style of direction that Stanley Kubrick pioneered is what conspiracy theorists say the moon landing, how it was faked and how it was
Yeah.
shot, was this front projection mode, so a lighting technique. And they're saying
Pl-
that Kubrick pioneered it. So
Plus
yeah,
he
there's
made
that carpet.
he
Yeah,
made 2001 A Space Odyssey, and it looks all the stuff in space looks so real. So I definitely could see him doing something like that. Plus he had the resources, he had the sound studios, he had the know-with-all. It's pretty much layering to make it look like space. I don't know. I've watched that moon landing thing. There is some weird shit to it.
Well, yeah, the flag not moving and no stars.
And they also like I have a theory that maybe they did land on the moon, but there's this thing called the Van Allen belt that's like a highly radiated area that you have to pass through when you're in a rocket. And a lot of people say that no like film, because film gets destroyed. Actually, they were doing recalls on some stuff lately because when you go into airports, these new X-ray machines would ruin actual film because it's pretty much an X-ray, and then when it would go through it, it would wreck all the film. So there's a theory that this Van Allen belt that your ship would have to pass through, if you even had any film, it would get destroyed. In my mind, I'm thinking maybe they did land, but then they lost the footage, so then they had to recreate it. I don't know.
That's smart.
There's a lot of weird shit though. All the documentation, all the numbers, the math about the ship going to the moon was ruined. Like that's all gone. It's just like I don't know if they fucking wrecked it or they said they had to like, spare some space and shit. So there's a lot of weird stuff that surrounds it. Plus we've never been back there since, and I don't know. The moon's pretty fucking out there. No pun intended. You got any more of these little juicy tidbits?
Not on that, but staying with the star theme. Disney, Lion King, you got sex written in the stars.
Yeah. There was a lot of claims that the animators would do a childish prank because they would get so the monotony of the work, you know. This is back in the day without computers. You had to draw every little cell of these things. So they'd have themselves some fun and I think in Little Mermaid there might be a penis or something.
Yeah. So in the Little Mermaid, Eric's marrying Ursula, and it looks like the priest has an erection. Disney's claiming it's clearly his knobby knees, but wow. But on camera it looks like the priest has an erection. And then if you go back to where all this Disney hoopla started, you go back to 1977, a movie, The Rescuers. Disney now has admitted that a disgruntled animator placed a topless photo of a woman quickly for a few frames.
Yeah, one or two frames.
In 1999, Disney finally admitted that yes, it is in there, and yes, they did it, and they pulled it from home versions. So
well, you would have never been able to see it until that time. Like I said, you couldn't stop frame by frame.
Now, some good VCRs could, but you really got to be dedicated to porn and animated tits if you're going to go through that trouble for that one. But
right,
yeah, I mean, Disney admits that they wrote something in the sky for Lion King, but they're saying it's SFX.
Yeah,
paying homage to their sound effects team there. But holy shit, it definitely looks like sex, and it's hard to. If they're admitting they put something there, that F is one weird looking EF.
And you claim that they say sex, right?
It looks like sex. Yeah. SEX.
I mean, maybe it's a little of both. These guys, like I said, the monotony of their work, especially back in the day with the Rescuers, these guys, man, that shit could make you go insane. Anything in the animation, even in today's world where you're making the Toy Story movies and stuff like that, you gotta literally create this stuff frame by frame. And let me tell you, folks, if you're dealing with 24 frames a second, you gotta construct 24 frames a second. That's fucking insane. I've dealt with it when we're doing masks and stuff, and my shit looks crude.
Well, speaking of crude, Empire Strikes Back. George Lucas got busted for using potato spuds as asteroids in space there. So I guess some of the people that, especially now that the things have gotten better in HD and shit, people are realizing they're cut up potatoes looking like asteroids.
Is that when Han Solo lands on that one asteroid and then the tremor thing comes out?
That's probably a fucking potato with a little micro machine on it.
I don't know if that's an urban myth, but that's definitely a good little tidbit. You know, in Fight Club, there's interwoven scenes of like cock and stuff, like you were saying with the boobies and the Rescuers, just for a couple of frames. It's all through the whole movie. The subliminal whack whack. You can't even see it unless you actually time it perfectly to freeze it then. David Fincher having some fun with the folks at home. I don't know. I think we've touched on the big boys. The Three Men and a Little Baby, Ghost. We told you guys that was bunk. That wasn't a real ghost. That was Ted Danson trying to promote something. We got Wizard of Oz, which that wasn't a midget hanging himself. That was a bird. And then the Exorcist stuff, that's just weird. And there was death involved. So out of those three big boys, the Exorcist one's the only true legend.
Yeah, I mean, well, they're all right. Yeah,
that's the
you're
only
right.
one that panned out.
Right. Yeah, that something happened, but even then, did they die because of spiritual shit, or is it like there was a death in what movie?
The Crow.
The Crow. Yeah, they say that there's clips of the Crow of him dying in the actual movie, but that's bunked. That's not true.
Well, they had to shoot a bunch because the scene that he actually died in was only like halfway through, or because when you do a movie, you shoot all over the place. Sometimes you shoot the end stuff first, depending on your budget and where you're at. But they had to like figure out how they were gonna piece together the film. So there's a lot of scenes in there that's not Brandon Lee. It's some actor from behind. Yeah,
I've never seen The Crow. What's The Crow about again?
It's Bruce Lee's son, Brandon Lee. I think it's an older, darker comic. It's essentially this guy dies, and then he comes back to like protect his wife. And then in the movie, the Crow gets shot. It's actually the scene where he actually gets shot. That's why it's so fucking weird. So in the movie, the Crow gets shot, but in real life, Brandon Lee was shot.
No, a dummy bullet. It says a dummy bullet shrapnel. So they like shot it off to the side or something, and shrapnel of what it hit pierced him in the side and ended up being a fatal wound.
Yeah, they didn't clear the barrel of the gun, so when they fired the blank, some solid matter flew out and hit him, is what I heard. So yeah, and then he perished from it. It's a pretty sad story.
Yeah, hell yeah, you gotta be so careful, dude. That's stupid. God, I used to spend so many Saturdays with my buddies trying to design. We had priced out the metal involved to make a hoverboard with reverse magnets try and work. And my brain keeps going back to this. I spent numerous Saturdays as a 12-year-old trying to figure out where I could get $750 for my first 10 feet of magnets that was about this thin. And I had my dad all talked up that I was going to get rid of the grass in the backyard and we were going to put these magnets down. And I was going to buy the first one and then save up and get the second one. And I said, I need about 16 of these things. My dad goes, all right, none of this is happening. Let me tell you right now, the back grass ain't going nowhere. So, but I had
idiots.
I had this big plan to get a hoverboard going in the backyard, taking a skateboard, taking the trucks and wheels off, and putting magnets on the bottom of that, and then have those reverse polarity to the ground. But I just ran with that one when I heard those when Zemeckis was saying those were real, dude. So on my wall in my bedroom as a young Jimbo Detroit, I had Back to the Future 2 there with Marty McFly outside of the fucking DeLorean with his 1 foot on that hoverboard. This is one of my favorite fucking shots, dude. I fucking loved that shit.
In theory, it would probably work, but to a degree.
There's been rumors over the years. Mattel's coming out with it, finally, the hoverboard, but even back then, the urban legend was that the rich kids had it. I remember, like, the uber, like, Bobby's got a fucking real hoverboard, dude. Like, what? What the fuck are we not over there fucking with this thing for? But no, that's one urban legend that hit home with me. But I do remember going through the Disney movies and trying to find Aladdin had something written in the sky.
Yeah, a lot of them do the tribute stuff. See, I always you wanted to do the hoverboard. I wanted to get some rollerblades that had flames that came out the back.
Is that from our movie Airborne?
I don't know. Going down Devil's Backbone.
Wiley.
Yeah.
You got Seth Green is Wiley, dude. This dude was a little fucking. He reminds me of Pauly Shore, dude. I remember.
That is a Wile E. Coyote move. The rollerblades with fucking explosives on the back.
Shout out to our best cartoon episode where we talk about Merry Melodies. We didn't even talk about Wile E. Coyote, which was fucking superb shit.
Well, our mind was in the now. We were thinking of all the new people.
What kind of urban legends we got? Anything from like, what else is there? I guess the movie ones are the best. I mean, now you have, well, spin it forward to like Netflix stuff like Stephen Avery and shit. You know, you watch these, or Tiger King and this and all this, and you get new urban legends with some of this reality, what I call garbage TV, even though I love it so fucking much. You get this new modern day urban twist where, oh, the Tiger King suing America for $94 million, and Carol Baskin suing the Tiger King for defamation of character and all this. You get new urban legends that we're not to the bottom of yet, you know? Shit, look at the virus, you know? Look at all the modern day current events that all, you want to talk about, urban legends grow every day. I think it's gotten so much worse when you talk about news and media right now because everybody's reading headlines and not stories and getting news from unreliable sources all over the place, not just TV, but mostly probably Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, here's one we forgot, the Poltergeist ghost director.
Yeah, no director there. Steven Spielberg played no role, folks. I'm sure he loves this story.
Yeah. Take this off my movie list because I don't remember directing it. That's how good this guy is. He put a team in place. He had to go work on an Indiana Jones, and the movie made itself. Bim, bam, boom. Well, so the fact of the matter is Toby Hopper is the official director, while Steven Spielberg was the film's creative force. And then there's another.
Superman had a curse. They had the Superman curse after Christopher Reeves died. A guy back in the 50s that did the TV series, he had died of a gunshot wound to the head from suicide. But they're saying that you die untimely deaths if you're Superman. But
or something bad happens to you. There's a curse.
Dean Cain, he hasn't been seen in a while, but I think he's still breathing.
That's his curse, bro. He had a death in Hollywood.
You've been fired. Yeah, right. You know, Brandon Roth probably agrees too. This dude had the curse because Superman returns his poop.
What was that other urban myth that, like, if you're on the cover of NFL?
Oh yeah, Madden. The Madden curse. The Madden curse, baby. Well, like for 14 years in a row, the guy got hurt. Finally, who broke it? Maybe Randy Moss broke it back 5-6 years ago. Someone broke the curse finally, but it was many years in a row the person got injured, and majority of the injuries were season ending.
So this is something that we would talk about on my other channel, Mike and Maurice's Mind Escape. But my question to you is it a curse, or is the curse conjuring up these thoughts in someone's head, and it's like they almost envision their own demise?
Well, we've gone down a lot of dangerous territories, but one I will bring you to is reincarnation. And I totally I believe in reincarnation to many levels. I think that it's spoken about for some type of truth and deja vu that we experience on a day-to-day level. This is out there shit, so sorry to scare people that know me.
Well, this is how we're going to wrap up today's episode. This is called Jimmy's Words of Wisdom. Now go ahead, my friend.
Deja vu. When you have deja vu, everybody's had it. They go, how the hell was this a dream? How am I replaying this scenario? When you get phenomenal at being able to meditate, control your telepathy, your ESP, when you are phenomenal at it and you're seeing a deja vu live, the best in the world can play off of it live and say, okay, I've seen this before. Here's the right move, or here's the wrong move. Don't make that decision because this is what it would lead to. But that is very rare in life that you get that opportunity. Try and seize it if you ever do. But when you know that feeling when you're going through deja vu, it's so odd. You're like, I've seen this before. I've been through this before. What the hell is this? Well, I believe in reincarnation, and we have seen it before. And that's why they talk about the 7 levels to get to nirvana. You have 7 goes at it. Okay. The Big Bang, they talk about the world expands for about 14.5 billion years, and then it contracts. And we're starting to contract now that we're getting up to 14.6. We're starting to contract, and it'll go back to its normal state and then explode again, and we'll all exist again. And then you go through that ride 7 times. If you're a great soul, by the end of those 7 rides, you make it to what they call heaven. If you're not, well, then you fucked. And I don't believe that I don't believe I become an ant. My reincarnation theories are a lot different. It's literally that your same life
you're constantly
replays.
going up. Like you wouldn't regress into an animal. You would
Right.
keep moving forward.
Correct. Well, you would hope to. And by the end of the 7 times through, hopefully you're at the pinnacle of your existence and you've become the best you can and you've learned through your mistakes through years past and lifetimes past. But that's my rabbit hole with that a little bit.
That's a little bit Buddhist
Yes. Yeah. Well, see, that's what I was saying the other day. All these religions, how could one be right and the others are wrong? But there's so much passion in all of them. There has to be a mixture of each one that's correct. And that's why if you go back 6,000 to 10,000 years, you have more of a consistency with one religion. But the telephone game, the next 5,000 years, we destroyed exact truths and made it their own. You have Lutheranism, Christian, and then boil it down to the actual ones in there, right? So you have all these different denominations that put their twist on it, but it all originated from one known entity, one known story. So I don't know. That's deep shit, but I believe in reincarnation. What was the initial question you asked me to get me on this fucking nuts topic?
I think I was just gonna say I just said Jimmy's words of wisdom. That's how we're gonna start wrapping up our episodes. I think you can drop some information nuggets on these people.
I just really think that you get a multiple go at it, and that's where to play it into urban legends. That's where some of the, I don't know. It's just like where you see you feel like you've been there before. Why does that occur? I don't know how it plays in urban legends, but I know I believe in that, so it's double dipping.
Well, I was asking if the curse from the Madden thing was an actual curse, or is it just because whenever someone gets the cover, now they're in that thought pattern where it's like, oh, the curse is here, so I'm gonna get it, and then it just
right. That's
over.
right. Okay, so yeah, leading back to that reincarnation, deja vu, you almost see. You almost know what's going to happen, and you can call it bad luck, or you can call it this, or premonition, but really you've experienced it before, and that's why it's hitting home, or you have that instinctful fear of what could happen, or like, oh man, if I do that. I don't know the true story on the Madden Curse, if anybody turned down the cover believing it that hard. But I want to say yes. I want to say that there were numerous athletes that turned down the cover of Madden with the fear of it affecting them.
Well, we know a lot of athletes are very superstitious. I don't know why that goes hand in hand. I guess it has something to do with luck. But a lot of that stuff. Everyone when we used to play music, they're like, "Good luck," but there's really no luck to it. You either practiced or you haven't. Again, if you're doing jams and improvising, you can have a better night than another. But as far as playing the song the right way, if you're not rehearsed, you're not rehearsed. I guess my cousin's really superstitious. He's a hockey player, and I see why hockey. There's a lot of superstition involved with that because if you boil it down to a science, the puck bounces a certain way because of physics. But there is luck to it. You could have a goal, a strange little flip flop, and the thing ends up in the net. That's a sport I guess all sports have that weird, like football, the thing could bounce in any direction. So There is science behind where it's bouncing, but we're not going to analyze every little thing.
No, luck is a dangerous word, but oh my goodness, sports, does it ever have that? Go to reverse luck. Go to unlucky. Look at the Wings in '08 losing when you're on your drive to Bonnaroo. The Wings are busy getting unlucky, losing Game 7 at home to the Pittsburgh Penguins. That's one of the most unlucky / lucky games I've ever seen.
Yeah, we were just talking about when we got to Bonnaroo. That was when that game was finishing, and my cousin called me and told me he was watching Sidney Crosby raise the cup, and I told him no.
I literally said that night. I called your cousin. I said, "Mark my words. This is the turning of the tide for the Wings. How can a team named Hockeytown be home Game 7 for a cup? It's like unprecedented. This is the hat from the year before, and when they won it in '07, '08,
Yeah.
and they lost in '08, '09. But I said they're going to be bad for a long time before they. I said this is where the tide just turned, and I'm sad to say it's 2020, and oh my goodness, thank God the season's canceled because holy shit, were these guys atrocious.
Well, you cursed them. You heard it here first, folks.
The Marchetti curse.
Well, that's about it for movie urban legends. If you've heard of anything else, folks, leave us a comment below. We'd be happy to see some things that we didn't really realize. We know that the Walt Disney stuff, there's multiple, but we didn't want to get into every little drawing in the sky. You got anything else to say there, Big Jimmy?
We didn't want to hurt your brain with every fucking drawing in the sky. No, I enjoy the topic, and I'm having a lot of fun. We'll see you guys tomorrow, and thanks for tuning in.
Arrivederci.